Good morning. I'm happy to share this with you also, talking about physical health. I'm not going to talk much about nutrition, about diets, what you should eat. I'm going to touch on that also. But really, physical health is so important if we're going to have well-being in every other dimension of life. And I think this is the Adventist health message also. We need to optimize our health, well-being in every area so we can enjoy maximum life like God wanted for us. But really a cornerstone in that is that we also can enjoy good physical health. And there for sure is a lot we can do on this area, even if we do everything right, there is no guarantee that as we are human beings in this world, that we won't suffer illness, that we all have some imperfections in our body, and it's always trying to maximize within what is the potential. I want to start with this quote by Ellen White, and this is from a 2-series article that I really would recommend you to read. This is written, I think, very much for pastors. It's a reflection on Jesus telling his disciples, come apart, rest for a while. 2 articles, one here, November 7, 1893. Next article was a week later, November 14th. And she's really emphasizing this importance of taking care of ourselves. Burnout has been one of since I started working for the church, talked quite a lot about in the context, especially pastors, burnout. I worked in the Trans-European division before. We did surveys on symptoms of burnout among pastors, and I was quite shocked actually when we started getting in the results from those surveys. I wondered if the secretary had made a mistake, like turned everything upside down. She hadn't. The levels of burnout that many pastors experience were so high that it was really troubling. And then Ellen White, she says this, our God is ever merciful, full of compassion, and reasonable in all his requirements. He does not require that we shall pursue a course of action that will result in the loss of our health or the enfeeblement of our powers of mind. And she knew what she was talking about because this had been a major problem among the pioneers. Many of them worked until they lost their health, or even worked until they lost their lives. That's not what God wants for us. He says he would not have us work under a pressure and strain until exhaustion follows and the prostration of the nerves. And I really like what she says here. The Lord has given us reason. And this is what when I read Ellen White, I see this again and again, to focus on the Lord has given us reason. Lord has given us a brain, use it. Reflect. Even when you read Ellen White. She also has this quite harsh statements about people saying, Mrs. White said this, Mrs. White said that, and then just blindly following. She encourages, use your mind, use your reason. The Lord has given us reason, and he expects that we shall exercise reason and act in harmony with the laws of life implanted in us. And that's what I hope that this talk today can help us live more according to the laws of life, live more according to the way we are designed, live more according to the needs of our body, so we can obey these laws, that we may have a well-balanced organization. When she talks about organization, I think she talks about our bodies, our mind, us as individuals, but ultimately, the healthier we as people are within the actual organization of the church, the healthier I also think the organization, bigger church organization actually would be. Our lifestyle, it doesn't only impact how long we live. That's been one of the ways we try to promote our health message, say, well, as Adventists, we will live longer. I'm not sure that is the most persuasive argument. I think most people, they want more immediate effects. People want to know, if I do this, I will do better tomorrow, next week, in the next month. I don't think so much about how long I will live. That's not what motivates me the most. What motivates me is, will I have a better life in the near future? And that is really also what lifestyle can provide. We can live well, quality of life can be better, and we can achieve and do what we want in the various dimensions of life. So that is like what we can hope for and also what we can expect. What I want to focus on, talk about, is these three things. It's been called like the health trinity: sleep, exercise, and nutrition. We already talked about mental health, we talked about social health. I would say really for good health overall, these things are essential, as is also relationships, but that's something we already have talked about. This is not a ranking, a priority of which is more important. But I would still say, I think the first two, if you don't get them right, it's also very difficult to get the nutrition right. And I think we have, maybe as Adventists, made a bit of a mistake in overemphasizing nutrition. Like in the big picture of health, nutrition is just one aspect, just one dimension of many that we have to focus on. Sometimes it may seem to some that we are promoting a diet message. We're not. Diet is important, but we have a health message, comprehensive, overall, complex, where we need to focus on all the aspects of health. But I will start with sleep, partly because I think my impression is this is one of the maybe most neglected and underappreciated aspects of health, also for us as Adventists. We live in a world, as a society, that really doesn't prioritize sleep. Like, it seems like almost everything is sabotaging sleep, stealing away from what could be quality sleep. Our devices, the way we live, entertainment, watching television at night, all these things robbing us from the natural sleep and quality sleep that we could have. And in a culture where many are workaholics, where working late nights, it's almost a badge of honor, and I think we have quite a bit of that within our church also. I think we need to reclaim our right to sleep and to appreciate the necessity to sleep. If you doubt the importance of sleep, I would recommend Matthew Walker's book. Matthew Walker, I think he's originally British, currently, and probably for the last couple of decades or so, he's been in California, one of the universities there, as one of the world's leading sleep researchers. And he wrote this book, Why We Sleep. And that book isn't easy to read. Some of you may have read it. I'm happy. Sometimes people come up to me and say, well, have you read this book? Yes, I have read it. It's, I think, today one of the most comprehensive books on sleep, and presents very good arguments for why we should sleep. So it's worth reading. Matthew Walker, he says that every species of animals that we know of in one way or another sleeps. Somehow God has created, like everything is created, is on the template, the design that we need sleep. And sleep is not just something, like it's not a waste of time. There's so many things going on in our brains, in our bodies, that are absolutely essential when we sleep. And if you steal from that sleep time, it will compromise, it will harm your functioning, and it will harm your brain and your body. He says that human beings are in fact the only species that will deliberately deprive themselves of sleep without legitimate gain. For most of us, there's so many things that are in competition with sleep. It can be work, it can be our devices, it can be other interests, things we do, things we try to fit in to those 24 hours which we all have. But in the end, we compromise on sleep and we neglect it. Most other animals are smarter, wiser than us human beings. If you ever had a pet, a dog or a cat, you know they sleep a lot. We as human beings, we also need sleep, and we should also prioritize that. Walker says a balanced diet and exercise are of vital importance, yes, but we now see sleep as the preeminent force in this health trinity of nutrition, exercise, and sleep. He says sleep is the most fundamental to health and well-being, and I think he may be right on that, though I would say if you don't exercise, if you're not physically active, you won't have optimal sleep quality. So it is essential also to exercise, and of course nutrition is important. We're not diminishing that. Sleep is the single most effective thing we can do to reset our brain and body health each day. Sleep is really a time where the body rejuvenates, restores itself, the brain and the mind does the same. And it's absolutely important to function well. Some of what we know that after about 16 hours of being awake, the brain starts to shut down. For most of us, the brain functioning basically starts, the quality of our thinking, our reflection, our emotional control, processing of what happens beyond 15, 16 hours, we don't function well. And almost all of us, less than 1% of the population functions well on less than 7 hours of sleep. And then we're talking actual sleep, quality sleep. If you are getting less than 7 hours of sleep, quality sleep every night, you and your brain is probably not functioning optimally. The challenge is that our brain is very poor at assessing how poorly it functions when we are sleep deprived. It's a bit like with alcohol. If you have some alcohol, your performance, like driving skills, other functions, it is like diminished. You don't function as well, even though you may feel that you actually are capable of more than you are. The same is with the brain. When we are sleep deprived, it's almost like we are half drunk. That is the reality. That's how poorly the brain functions. And we know in the US that sleepiness causes more actions than alcohol, more accidents than alcohol and drugs combined. That's how big a problem it is. Sleepiness, people falling asleep, causing accidents, or even like just this micro sleep, just brief moments of being not attentive in the traffic, in other situations, cause a lot of sleep. And in general, also, our sleep deprivation, it causes a lot of problems beyond accidents. We are not our best person, we are not as nice to be around. Conflicts, aggression, arguments, many of these things, I think we all know from experience that when we are tired, we are not so capable of managing ourselves and functioning also in relationships. And it also has huge impact on creativity, productivity. Some of the effects of sleep deprivation, if someone like routinely, consistently sleeps less than 6 or 7 hours a night, it significantly impacts the immune system. Many of you may be familiar, like if you are sleep deprived, you may know from experience, you're more at risk of getting colds and flus. I got some virus about 3 weeks ago after traveling to Zambia, overnight flights. I was tired. My immune system was not functioning as well. Maybe I would have gotten it anyway, whatever virus I was exposed to. But still, our immune system is compromised. And our immune system is not just important to prevent like colds and flus, like these are things we usually recover from quite quickly, but long-term, even things like cancer are issues. If our immune system does not function well, you're at higher risk of cancer and other issues. It seems to be getting clearer and clearer also that insufficient sleep, chronic sleep deprivation, plays a role in the development of Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a horrible disease, both for the one who suffer from it and from the family, from those who are around. And when we are sleeping, the whole brain initiates a cleansing process, cleans out the brain. If we don't sleep enough, that cleansing process doesn't work as efficiently, and that's where it can put us at high risk of Alzheimer's disease, where things can accumulate in our brains and put us at higher risk. If you are severely sleep deprived, like if you've been like just put people in a laboratory, keep them sleep deprived, just having 4 to 5 hours of sleep for just 1 week, their body will function in terms of glucose, blood sugar, as if they were pre-diabetic, perfectly healthy people, but just for 1 week, significant sleep deprivation, and the body is not able to manage such a basic thing as glucose properly anymore. Sleep disruption, sleep deprivation also puts us at higher risk of depression, anxiety, suicidality. Often in mental disorders, sleep issues are common symptoms. Like our sleep is very sensitive. Whenever, if you experience that for a time you are having sleep problems, I recommend to take a time out and ask yourself, what's going on? What is going on now in my life? Because sleep disturbances can be an early symptom of something more significant that may be in development. And we also know that chronic sleep deprivation in itself can probably be a triggering factor for depression, anxiety, and other issues. Also, when you're sleep deprived, your appetite regulation doesn't function as well. There are two key hormones that play a role in regulating our appetite. Ghrelin tells us that we are hungry. So when ghrelin is up, we want to eat. Leptin is sort of the counterpart. It tells us that we are fine, that we don't need more food. But when you're sleep deprived, these hormones are not in balance anymore. Ghrelin can be up, leptin can be down, like meaning that you want to eat even though your body doesn't really need it. It's just the sleep deprivation disrupts this hormonal system as well as it disrupts so many other systems. So basically, if you want to lose weight, it's next to impossible to do that if you are sleep deprived. If you want to lose weight, make sure you sleep enough. It's not just like, of course, watch your diet, do your exercises, but sleeping appropriately, sufficiently is very important. So in summary, you could say the shorter you sleep, the shorter your lifespan will be, and also the poorer your quality of life will be. Sleep, it is amazingly restorative and rejuvenating. When you're sleep deprived, your brain is destabilized, your memory function doesn't work well. One of the worst things a student actually can do is to, what you say in American, like English, to pull an all-nighter before an exam, be up all night, reading, studying. If you haven't slept, like you don't move memories from short-term memory to long-term memory. So all that hard work as a student, if you're sleep deprived, is actually like almost a waste. It would be better to spend time getting sleep because your brain would be functioning better, your studies will be much more efficient. So that's a recommendation. So sleep more if you want to remember things. And of course, our emotions, they're also off when we haven't slept enough. So it is important. How much sleep do we need as adults? 7 to 9 hours. It differs from us. Some of us can function well on 7 hours, some may function well on 8, some may need 9 hours. You just have to figure out what works for you, what do you need in order to have energy throughout the day, to be clear, to be sharp through the day. For some, taking a short afternoon nap, it can be good. Also for students, actually, taking short naps during the day while they're studying is actually good also for the memory functioning. Not long naps, but shorter ones can be beneficial. What I'm concerned about is especially children and adolescents, teenagers. Because I know many, I see that in families who have kids, that often those kids are pretty much on an adult sleep pattern and an adult number of hours. Children need more, teenagers need more. Teenagers need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. I'm afraid it seems to me that very few teenagers get much more than maybe 8 hours, and some of them take their phone to bed, can be on social media. That's really problematic for their development, and younger children need more sleep. Recommendation for how regarding sleep: go to bed at the same time each night, get up at the same time each morning, also in the weekends. We have these bodily rhythms that are so important. Everything in our body is on a rhythm, and our body temperature, it has peaks, it has lows. When we disrupt our rhythm, then everything is thrown off. Traveling across time zones is really not healthy, and sort of try to keep things as much as possible in the rhythm. Sleeping in a dark, quiet, comfortable environment, not too cold, not too warm. Some claim that a room temperature of around 18 Celsius is the ideal, but of course it can change, differ from person to person. Daily exercise, being in physical activity is important, but no hard, intense exercise like shortly or within the last couple of hours before sleep, because that activates the body in a way that the body needs time to calm down before you sleep. Limit the use of electronics before bedtime. Really, ideally, we shouldn't be using screens the last 1 to 2 hours before we sleep. The blue light from the screen, but also the brain activation it causes, it's really not beneficial for sleep. The nature around us, of course, we more here in the northern part, we can have long nights or light in the evening. Norway even more so. But really, we are made for things to be darker in the evening. That initiates melatonin production, which is a key hormone in regulating our bodily rhythms. But for many of us, the way we use screens, the way we use artificial lights, we don't, in the evening when the production of melatonin should be ramping up, increasing, we suppress that by all the artificial light that we're using. So when we just then turn off the phone, or close the laptop, and then go straight to bed, our body is not ready to sleep. And that's why and that means it takes 1 to 2 hours for the body to catch up, to get ready for sleep. So maybe then, even if you go to bed at 10, your body won't really be ready to sleep until 11, 12 at night. Relax before bedtime. Things that can calm you down, settle down, find peace, slow down, that's important. Using stimulants is not beneficial. Alcohol is not good for sleep, even though some may say, okay, a little alcohol helps me sleep, but it really doesn't. It suppresses sleep quality. It may help you sort of doze off, but it's not good for the sleep quality. And also caffeine. Some are more sensitive to the use of caffeine also, so even a coffee in the morning can actually for some mean that they struggle to sleep at night, and it can disrupt sleep quality. And if you have problems long term, then really seek a health professional for that. That is important. If you have chronic sleep problems, that is a serious health problem, and you should talk with a health professional. Exercise, a topic I like to talk about, something I enjoy very much, also myself. This is just a video clip from a bike ride that Anthony Kent, I, and some other pastors from Scotland did in May. We combined, well, at least Anthony and my passion for cycling. I don't know if the other pastors who joined us had the same passion yet, but I think they enjoyed it very much. So we actually combined this physical activity also with mission outreach. And that's been a nice experience. We've done that a few times now. And that's just one example. For me, it's like endurance sports. I love cycling, been a cyclist since I was 15 years old, love skiing, love running. For you, maybe that doesn't give you anything. Maybe for you, that's not what makes you feel good. The important thing with exercise is to find something that you appreciate, something that you enjoy, and that you will keep doing consistently. Find something that gives you pleasure, because that's what exercise can do. Sometimes in the beginning, like when your body is not fit, it can be hard, it can be difficult, but once you get into it, oftentimes it can be a pleasure. Exercise really is one of the quickest, most effective ways to boost your well-being, both physically and mentally. And just a few minutes of exercise provides health benefits. For like our bodies are made to move, and we do not function well the way our world is. We sit a lot. We are passive. We don't move around a lot. That's not what our bodies were made for. There's so many benefits to exercise. Increased energy levels, something that most experience. Also, when I was a medical student, the times I was most faithful and consistent with my exercise were in my exam periods. Because I knew if I did not exercise, I would not have the energy I needed to make it through. Unfortunately, in between, I could be a bit lazy and not exercise as consistently, but that was a mistake. Exercise also boosts our immune system. Moderate exercise can really help prevent also things like cold, flus, but also more chronic diseases. Improved flexibility, balance, muscle strength, and endurance. These are things also, as we get older, we need to be more intentional about taking care of, so we don't lose it. Weight management, of course, it's important. Again, also exercise helps regulate our appetite, so it can be easier to manage the balance between the energy we expend and what we take in. Of course, for our heart, cardiovascular system, we know it's very beneficial. Positive effects on blood pressure, cholesterol, reducing the risk of some of the big killers like heart disease, stroke, cardiovascular conditions, but also for other illnesses like cancer, diabetes. Exercise can also have a preventative function. For our bone health, bone strength, especially important for women, can be more prone to osteoporosis. Exercise where we put strain on our skeleton system, it's also important. Major mental health benefits. There's plenty of research indicating that exercise is one of the most effective ways of boosting your mental health. Especially research has been done in regard to depression, anxiety, and it's often found that the effect of exercise is similar to what medication is. That does not mean that you should exercise instead of taking medication if you are struggling with a mental health problem. My recommendation is do everything that can be beneficial and that can help. But definitely one of the things that can help is exercise. And also longevity, length of life, probably much of the time I would think that we put into exercise, some of that can be reclaimed at the end of life as living longer, but also living better. So the recommendations when it comes to exercise, like there's no lower threshold for exercise, like anything is better than nothing. Like the optimum level for most of us is between 150 to 300 minutes per week. Doesn't mean that still, like beyond that, there's still benefits, but if you reach that level of 2.5 to 5 hours of exercise per week, at least on average half an hour a day, 5 days a week, that is what is recommended. But more is actually even better. It's been shown that also when exercise longer, there are still gains to be had in that. But at least aiming for 2.5 to 5 hours, that's a really, really good investment that we can do. Say a little about nutrition. Of course, our bodies are built from the food we eat, from the fluids that we drink. If you want a good body, if you want a good nervous system, a good brain, then use good raw materials for that. Healthy eating helps us live longer, keeps our skin, teeth, eyes healthy, support muscles. Again, boosts immunity if you eat the right things, strengthen bones, lowers risk of the same kind of illnesses that we talked about, heart disease, diabetes, cancers. Supports a good start for life with healthy pregnancies and breastfeeding. Also keeps the digestive system functioning well, and this is something we've been paying quite a lot of attention to. Now is the microbiome, the gut bacteria that we have, which what we eat plays a major role in terms of the bacteria that are in our gut system, and these are so important for how we process food, but also they interact with the whole body. If you eat healthy, you will have a more diverse flora in your gut, and that is beneficial. Junk foods, sugars, they destroy the health and quality of the microbiome. So what are the recommendations? I like this simple recommendation from Michael Pollan. He says, eat food, not too much, and mostly plants. Like if you follow this advice, you are on a good track. When he talks about food, he distinguishes between food, like the way it comes from the nature, and what he calls food-like substances coming out of factories. I like that sort of distinction, food-like substances. He recommends not to eat them. Eat things as far as possible the way they come from nature, and not something that has been through factories. Not eating too much is important, and mostly plants or plant-based products is the recommendation. Eat a variety of food. Don't eat too much. Portion control. Many of us, we consume too much food, which just is a waste. Fruit and vegetables. General recommendation is at least 5 servings per day. That's probably not enough, or it is not enough for optimal health. It's a pragmatic thing to say, because many people unfortunately don't eat that much even, but probably like 8 to 10 servings of food or servings of fruit, vegetables per day. That's probably where we should be at. So just eat as much as you can and varied as you can. Eating whole grain products rather than refined products, and what they call lean proteins. Some of the best proteins we get are from plants. Beans, legumes, soy products is really excellent proteins that we get there. We don't need to eat animal-based derived proteins, but if you do eat something that is healthy and good quality, and definitely try to stay away from processed meats. That's really recognized now by the World Health Organization as a cancer risk factor. Processed meats, like in hamburgers, sausages, that kind of things, really that is dangerous foods that we should try to avoid. If you eat meat, fish, again, eat it as natural as possible. Eat healthy fats. We need that from nuts, avocados, oils, fish if you like. Sugar, really limit as much as possible. Sugar really is pro-inflammatory in our bodies, triggers inflammation in the body, which many of the diseases that we struggle with are related to inflammation. Also, mental diseases like especially depression related to inflammatory processes. So sugar, really, we don't need in the raw form. Careful with salt, stay hydrated, and overall moderation is recommended. As we end, I would make a recommendation. This is not become part of the official health message yet, but it's still my recommendation. If you are someone who likes technology, who may get inspired from data on health, then various kind of health trackers that are available now and that are not even expensive. Even most of our phones are health trackers. They can track many of the data that we need. I've seen many of you have Apple watches, which is an excellent health tracker, but you can also get them cheap health trackers from around 100 euros. You can get a health tracker that tracks basically everything you need. You can spend 1,000 euros if you want, or even more, to get the most sophisticated ones, but they really don't provide much extra data. It's been said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. For those of you who are familiar with using Strava, which is like a social media app for typically runners and cyclists, we say, if it ain't on Strava, it didn't happen. So we become like tracking what we do, even our exercises, has become very common. But what are health trackers? They are devices that try to quantify our activity and health data. And they have become like amazingly sophisticated and can give us a lot of information. They started maybe with just tracking our steps, active minutes, heart rate. Now sort of they track sleep quantity and quality. They give good information on that. They can track, like estimate your fitness level, compare it to the general population. It can various ways of measuring stress levels, heart rate variability. Very interesting how that it can measure that. When you have a high heart rate variability, it indicates that your body is in good balance. When it's low, then it's an indicator of stress, energy levels. And now also many of these devices, they even track heart rhythm. Some of them can even do ECGs on the phones or on the watches. Again, the Apple Watch is one of the early ones on that actually can analyze your heart rhythm. They can also report when there is a problem. And especially for us, we get into the age where we are more at risk of heart issues. Having such a device that monitors your heart rhythm, it can be a good life insurance. So I'd recommend, like again, it's not no pressure on that, but it's really can be a very good investment if you will track it and use it also to see how you're doing and that it can inspire you. My first sports watch was this one that I got in 1986. It was a Casio that had, I could put my finger on the side of the watch, push the blue button. This is not my actual watch. I found this picture on eBay, but it was like this one, and then I could put my finger on the side, hold my finger still, carefully place it, and it would measure my heart rate. It was not very sophisticated, but it was fun. Today, sort of this is Stone Age compared to what we have today. There are many brands. These are just some of the ones that are well recognized. But again, you don't need to spend a lot of money, like from about 100 euros. Most of these, get something, they will provide pretty much all the data that you need. So that's something that like I found helpful. I wear now a watch 24/7. Check on my app that it downloads the data to the app, looks like how did I sleep last night, how is my stress level, how is my heart rate variability, how is my body battery, various ways that it estimates these things. So you can also have more discrete things, like there's an Aura ring. This is one of the actually most accurate ones now. It's just a ring that you have on your finger, or other things. But actually, for the money, I think Apple Watch, some of these smartwatches are actually amazing value for money. And I don't get any bonus, or I'm not sponsored by anyone to do this. If you want to dig deep into this, what is the best one, what are the functions, this is a website that produced very in-depth reviews of that. So this is what typically athletes go when they want to have a new device or figure out which one to buy. So that was just like a quick run through on some on physical health. Hope it can inspire you to reflect on your situation. See, are there things, is this something that you should prioritize. I quoted Ellen White yesterday, said, our family, our children should be our priority. The Ellen White quote that I shared in the beginning also, I think that's an argument for also making our physical health a priority. So, thank you.